Hello everybody and welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're back here with our Monday night look back at a classic rock album. Today's episode will feature none other than Nektar. Yeah, it's hard to see their name on this album. Even hard to see when you're looking right at it. The album is called Journey to the Center of the Eye. Yeah, big surprise there, eh? Anyways, I've chosen to do this album. It's been on my playlist now for probably about 5 months, maybe a little longer. And it's nearing the top of my playlist, so it's getting long in the tooth, as they say. I've listened to it plenty, but I didn't want to do a video on it till I usually wait till they've been around about 5 months before I do a video on them, because especially for the progressive rock albums, they tend to take longer to penetrate. And this album is take even more time, because when I first started listening to it, I didn't know much about it. I didn't do any reading on it. I didn't know really much about it. I just was listening to it, and then I thought, it seems to be disjointed in some ways. And then I started, because I would play it in the background while I was doing stuff, and then I started really concentrating on it, and then I started reading up on it. So this is a concept album. That was the intent of it anyways, to be a concept album. I didn't read entirely on what the concept was about, but having sat down and listened to it, I think it's kind of a parody. It's a parody on traveling through space to another planet and relocating, and journeying from the outside of your life to the inside and looking at yourself through the inside, and so going through your eye to do that. That's what I think it is, but I'm no expert on these kind of things by any imagination. It's just what I hear when I'm listening to it. So we'll start. What we normally do with these albums is we start off by giving you the factual information on the album. So this album was released on November. Sorry, I'm just going to turn this slightly. Released on November 1971. Its studio was at the Dirks Studio in Cologne, Stomen, West Germany. Yes, that was when Germany wasn't together. 42 minutes in length. On the Basilius label, and produced by Dieter Dirks and Peter Hock and Nektar. Now, a lot of people are of the opinion that Nektar is actually a German band. They are not. They are a British-Scottish band. But they started their journey in Germany because they were, I guess it makes sense in a way. They were accepted there first, so that's where they started their journey. So they have that feeling. Even the name Nektar, as it's spelled, Nektar, is a German spelling of the word nectar, which is the English translation of this word, which I did not really know until I started researching this album. Okay, so this is the third This is the third Nektar album that I've done on one of these classic look back. This one's easily the most complex. The other two I like a lot as well. I like all three of their albums. This is a band I discovered as a result of doing this channel. So I'm very much into them. They're not as easily, some of their albums aren't as easily penetratable as others. I didn't care as much for Recycled as I did for Tab in the Ocean. This one I like more than Recycled, although I do like Recycled. I don't want to get the impression I don't. I just don't like it as much as the other ones, these two. So the personnel on this album features, the main four guys, plus they've added a couple people here that they took off on Tab in the Ocean. So Roy Albrighton is on vocals and guitars. Then you have Mick Brockett, who's basically in charge of the lighting. And Nektar, if you've ever seen them live or anything, lighting is a very big effect in the group. So much so that they've named him as a member of the group. Alan Taff Freeman, He was on mellotron, piano, organ, and vocals. Roy Howden, yes, the Roy Howden who just passed away recently, drums and percussion. Derek Moore on mellotron, bass, and vocals. And then Keith Walters, who does the static slides. I'm not really sure what that means, but if anybody knows, they can put a comment about it in the comment section down below. I haven't found any reference to what that actually means. Okay, so on to the song. So this song has 13 parts. And I'm going to use the word parts as opposed to the word tracks, even though they're a bit interchangeable here. They are actually music tracks. But parts meaning because it's a concept album, it has parts to it, 13 of them. And so we're going to refer to this album in its entirety as a concept album and talk about that and the music that goes with it rather than break down the individual tracks, because I've tried doing that before with concept albums. It doesn't really fly very well. People don't understand what you're talking about. And to be honest with you, it doesn't make sense to break something down that is part of a whole. So that's not what I'm going to do. So it does have, like I said, many tracks on it. I will refer to them, of course, because you have to when you're talking about something. And I will need my glasses to do so, because this album has tiny writing on a dark background. So very difficult. It actually, I'm going to take it out here just because the glare on the album is difficult to read, and it might not work out anyways, but we're going to attempt to make that. Okay, so if you read the tracks in the album, you will find that that's indeed what it was, a concept album. It's not going to work because the writing on the back is too small to read. I can't read that. So basically, you've got 13 tracks that tell a story where it opens up where they are traveling, feels like they're traveling through a void, at least in the prelude song, which is the opening track, traveling through a void, and they end up being on a ship traveling through this void. So they're astronauts, basically, is what they are, and they're traveling. If you want to do this in a kind of two-story part, they're traveling from, I'm going to guess it's Earth because something's happened to Earth, and they're traveling looking for a new home. They find one somewhere. There's a bit of a warp oversight. They overshoot where they're going, and they ended up somewhere else, and they discover a new planet for them to colonize. Now, if you're taking it from the other concept side of looking inside, they talk about all the different things that go into getting into looking through your own lens and into your own eye and seeing inside yourself and seeing what you're about. That's loosely what I think it's about. Now, I could be completely over in left field on this, so please do not take what I say as the gospel. It's just my interpretation of what I'm seeing. Now, there is a part on the back of the album. I don't know if you can make this out. I'm going to get up as close as I can. You'll see the list of the tracks, like the one that I can see most clearly is Look Inside Yourself, the second last track, and Death of the Mind are the last two tracks. And there's writing for each of those things telling you what each of them means. And if you read that, you probably would come up with it better. I personally can't see it so well, even with my glasses. It's very small. So, at any rate, this is a musically, we'll talk a little bit about it musically now. So, there's a lot of synthesizer on this album. Tremendous amount of synthesizer and noises that you would expect to encounter and at least in a video game anyways. You won't encounter this actually in space because there's no noise in space, but you know, the sound that people have come to through science fiction to expect to hear when they're traveling through space, you're going to get a lot of that here. It's very spacey actually. The guitar is quite heavy in areas that he plays it, like where it's dominant. It's pretty heavy. Actually, I find this band that in general to be a pretty heavy guitar band. Pretty heavy musical band. They're not your typical like Genesis, a lot of Genesis stuff or Yes stuff, which isn't necessarily that heavy, but more mellow. These guys are closer to what Rush might be considered, like almost a progressive metal band. I wouldn't say they're progressive metal though, but they definitely are on the heavy side of that progressive element. The drums are really good, and he uses this percussion timely in different places. I think I wouldn't say he's an underrated drummer. I think for those who listen to him, they think he's good. We all know he's good. He's underknown. I don't think as many people would know about him because Nektar in general isn't really known that well. But he's an excellent drummer, doing lots of different sounds throughout this album, which I think are really cool. The keyboardist, Taff Freeman, the late Taff Freeman, actually Freeman, Albrighton, and Howden are all passed away now. Only Derek Moore is left of the musicians on here. Mick Brockett, of course, is still alive too. But so they've got this heavy sound. The bass is heavy, the guitar is heavy, even the keyboard parts are heavy. The mellotron and the organ he uses of the mellotron organ, and even the piano at points too, give a kind of a heavy feel to the album. So again, it's got that very spacey sound to it. Lots of I would say mellotron is the more dominant of the keyboard instruments, along with the synthesizers on this album. Yeah, so to me, it's a really good listen. There's some catchy parts to it too that are really interesting to listen to. I don't know if I like it as much as Tab in the Ocean. In fact, I doubt that I do. But it's definitely a good album, a solid. I give this I like to rank things out of 10, so I give this a solid 7.5, almost 8 out of 10. So if you were ranking it by the 5 scale, it would be like a 3.5 to 4. And it's growing with me. The more I listen to it, the more I hear things, the more the stuff that I've heard clarifies in my mind. There are a couple of tracks I just wanted to briefly talk about, just because they were the 2 tracks that I think I kind of generally like the most. This song Continents, which is kind of the third part to the album. It gives this sense of them drifting through the void. This is the part where you get this real spacey feel from the album, and they use that. They create this atmosphere through the synthesizers, through the use of their guitars, the heaviness of their guitars and stuff. It is a bit, the funny part about it is all that heaviness, but it is actually more of a subdued track, which kind of reminds me in some ways of stuff that you might get from Pink Floyd. That kind of noise that you get. Pink Floyd's notorious for making that kind of spacey noise. And Eloy is another band that does this quite a bit as well. Even Hawkwind, although Hawkwind tends to be more of that than the other two. So yeah, so these are all bands that, if you like those type of bands, this particular album by Nektar here, I think will appeal to you. And I like this kind of story parts that you get from the other song. Before I get going with what I was just about to say, where is it? Yeah, there's a 2-parter here. The Nebula Part 1 and the Nebula Part 2, which is also that giving off more of that same kind of thing. And if you like that storytelling thing, which I do quite a bit, and you like that spacey feel that you get with bands like Hawkwind and Eloy and even Pink Floyd, to maybe a little bit lesser of a bit, you will definitely, this particular album by Nektar falls well within that. The other ones, not so much, especially Recycled, totally different sound altogether. Tab in the Ocean has a little bit of this sound because it's the next album in their sequence as they go along, but not as dominant as you get on this. This album was a very different style when it came out, I think. And I quite like it. I think it's if you're thinking about getting into Nektar, this is a good one. I don't know if it's the first one you should get, though. I would say Recycled would be the opening album to get into, and then maybe move backwards into Tab in the Ocean, and then go to this one thirdly. I do have another one called Time Machine, but that's quite a bit different from any of this other stuff. So there you have it. Journey to the Center of the Eye by Nektar, a 1971 album. Definitely a progressive rock album. I hope that some of what I said has made sense. It's a bit of a difficult album to kind of relate to other people because of the nature of it. And I hope you'll give it a shot. Any comments about this particular album, please put them in the comments section below. And please hit the like. If you like this content, let me know, and then I'll continue to do more of the same if I can. And please subscribe. It's much appreciated. So, from the Monday night look back at a classic rock album, which featured Journey to the Center of the Eye by Nektar, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll be back next Monday with another look back at another classic rock album. Take care. Bye.